Hey everyone, it's Megan here from Megan Makes Do, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet the Taya tank top. For today's tutorial, we'll be using Lion Brand's Kobu yarn, which is a weight 3 yarn, and it's made of cotton and rayon from bamboo. You get a lot of yardage. You get 232 yards per skein. I love this yarn for summer accessories and garments, and you'll need 3 different colors. I'm using coal, taupe, and tan, but you can select any 3 colors of your preference. We'll also be using a size E 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. This is a new one to me. I got this from Hobie in their little pack of accessories, and so far I really love this hook. I'll put links to all the materials in the description below. Okay, so to start our tank, we're going to be working from the top down, and we're going to start by working the front and back panels separately, and then we'll be joining them when we have like our underarm section. So to start our back panel, we are going to put a slip knot on our hook, and I'm using black as my color A. And then we will chain the number indicated for your size. As always, you can find the written pattern for this tank top for free on the blog, which is a great thing to follow along with as you watch the video. You can also get the PDF in my shop or the complete kit from Lion Brand Yarn. So for this tutorial, I'll be working up the size extra large 2X. So for the back panel, we're going to need 51 chains. So go ahead and work the number of chains needed for your size. Then to start row 1, we're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook and in each chain all the way across. So I'll zoom in here so that you can see it a little better. Just note that with the Kobu yarn, it can be a little bit splitty. You'll see that I've accidentally put my hook through the strands of yarn instead of around. So take your time and go slow with this one until you get used to the yarn that you're working with. But go ahead and continue to single crochet in each chain all the way across for row 1. Okay, so we're at the end of row 1. For row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And then what we want to do for this upper section is we're going to be working in the front loop only. So when you insert your hook, again, you'll see here it was tricky. I didn't go through just the front loop. I went through some of the back. But make sure that you're getting through just the strands of the front loop, and then you will single crochet in each stitch all the way across, only going through that front loop of your stitches. And here I'll zoom in again so you can get a closer view, especially since I'm using black yarn for some of this. I want to make sure that you can see exactly where to place your hook and work your stitches. But we'll just be single crochet, front loop only, all the way across for row 2. Okay, so we're at the end of row 2. For row 3, this is our increase row. We're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to work a single crochet front loop only into the first stitch. And then we'll work 2 single crochet front loop only into the next stitch. So there's 1 and 2. Then we're going to single crochet front loop only all the way across our row until we have 2 stitches remaining. Okay, so we're down to the last 2 stitches of row 3. So in this next stitch, we'll work 2 single crochet front loop only. So there's 1 and 2. And then a single crochet front loop only in that last stitch. And then we'll chain 1 and turn, and we're just going to repeat rows 2 and 3 for a total of 9 to 10 times depending on what size you're making. For my size, I'll repeat 10 times. For the smaller sizes, you'll repeat 9, so make sure that you're referencing that written pattern as you go. So we're going to be increasing just every other row as we go for this first part of the back panel. Okay, so I've gotten all of my repeats done, and I'm ready for the next part of the back panel, which is very easy. we're just going to be working a row 3 repeat for a total number of repeats to finish out our back panel. So again, we start with a single crochet front loop only in the first stitch, and then 2 single crochet front loop only in the next stitch, then single crochet front loop only all the way across until you have 2 stitches remaining. And then just as we did with our regular row 3 repeat, we're going to work 2 single crochet front loop only and then 1 single crochet front loop only to finish off. And you'll repeat that number, that row 3 repeat for the total listed for your size. Okay, so for the front panel, I'm not going to show you all the details. It's very similar to the back panel. The big difference here is that instead of increasing every other row, we're actually increasing every single row. So you'll start again with a number of chains. You'll work single crochet in the second chain from the hook all the way across for row 1. And then for your row 2 for the front panel, that's going to be your increase row. And it's worked just the same as the increase row for the back panel. And you'll just continue working that repeat for the number of rows listed for your size. And then what you want to do, you can kind of see the angle here. You don't want to fasten off when you are done with your front panel because we'll be working off of the front panel to start our joining round when we join the front and back panel in the underarm area of our tank top. So go ahead and work up your front panel as written in the written pattern, and then I'll meet you back here and we will join our front and back panels together. Okay, so I have my back panel, which you can see here, and I fastened off on one end. And then I have my front panel here, which I put a stitch marker in because we're going to be working off of that front panel. So I'm going to insert my hook into my working loop on my front panel. Okay, and I just have my back panel over here. Eventually, you can tell that they're like the same size. And we'll be making kind of extra stitches over here in the underarms to join them. So in order to make those extra stitches, we're going to be working again off of the front panel. We're going to chain a number of stitches indicated for your size. So for the extra large 2X, we want to chain 13 stitches. Okay, so what we want to do is this is creating that underarm area, but we want our seam to be right in the center of the underarm, not towards the front or towards the back. So we will chain the indicated number of stitches for your size. So again, for extra large 2X, I'm chaining 13. Okay, and then we can turn our work, and we're going to be working across the chain stitches. So here we can turn, and then in the second chain from the hook, I'm going to single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet into each chain all the way across the chain stitches. Okay, so I'm working my last chain stitch single crochet, and now making sure that we have our front panel facing the right direction. So you want to make sure that when you're working your front loop only single crochets that you're not working on the wrong side. Okay, so we're going to front loop only single crochet all the way across the bottom of our upper front panel, and then just work all the way across, stopping one stitch before the end. Okay, so I'm to my last stitch, and normally we just yarn over and finish that single crochet, but what we're going to want to do is add foundation single crochet stitches to create that underarm join to the back panel. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to start my foundation stitches. So I'm going to chain 1 and then finish out my single crochet. That's going to give me that chain 1 to work my next foundation stitch into. So then we're going to insert your hook into the chain, and then chain 1, and then yarn over and draw through both loops on your hook. So if you're not familiar with foundation single crochet, you can definitely look for other tutorials on YouTube that can help you, but I'm trying to show you here as well how it's done. You're just kind of adding that foundation chain as you go. Okay, so we're going to slow it down here so you can see. I insert my hook into that chain we made, and then yarn over, draw up 1 loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Okay, so just continue working your foundation single crochet stitches. Again, working the number indicated for your size. For the size I'm making, the extra large 2X, I will be making a total of 24 foundation single crochet stitches. And this is going to be the full underarm area. And then once I'm done with the foundation single crochet stitches, we will be joining and attaching to that back panel. So all of my foundation stitches are made, and then I'm laying my back panel down with that fastened off end where I'm going to work next. So it's going to be a little loose here since I haven't woven the end in yet, but you want to insert your hook into that first stitch of the back panel. So make sure you don't get your yarn tangled up and you're not working with the wrong yarn. But insert into the front loop of that first stitch of the back panel and work a single crochet. And then we're just going to single crochet front loop only all the way across that upper back panel until we get to 1 stitch from the end. You want 1 stitch remaining when you're done because we're going to work some more foundation single crochet stitches. Okay, so I'm working my last stitch and I'm stopping before my last yarn over to make that chain for my foundation stitches. So now again, we're going to be working those foundation stitches, and you're going to be working the same number of foundation stitches as you did at the very beginning when we added those chains and worked some single crochet across. So it's basically half the underarm size. So for my size, I am going to be making 12 foundation single crochets, but make sure that you are following along with the correct size that you are making. So we'll make all of our foundation single crochet stitches, and then we will attach to our beginning stitches to join. Okay, so now we want to lay out our panels so that we make sure that nothing is twisted. And we want to bring that beginning stitch around, making sure that it's laying straight. There we go. And we are going to slip stitch to that first stitch that we made to join, officially join our panels together. So now we have 1 piece that we will be working on, and just make sure this is not twisted in any way, so it helps to lay it all out. And from here we're going to be working straight down. We're going to make some increases, and we're really going to get it into our wavy stitch pattern. Okay, so our main body section is worked in turned rounds. So for this first round, we're going to chain 2. The chain 2s do not count as a stitch, and turn our work. And we're sticking with color A for the next 2 rounds. So now we are going to double crochet front loop only for a total number of stitches. It's different depending on what size you are making. Okay, so make sure you're paying attention to that because the beginning and ending of these rounds is going to be slightly different for each size, but the main middle part is all going to be the same. It's just going to have different amount of repeats. So we will double crochet front loop only for a total number of stitches. For the size I'm making, I'm going to do that for a total of 15 stitches. So once I have those 15 stitches done, again, it's going to vary depending on what size you're making, but you will all have an initial set of double crochet front loop only. Okay, so I have my 15 stitches, In the next 3 stitches, I'm going to work 2 double crochet front loop onlys. So depending on what size you're making, you'll have anywhere from 2 to 4 of these increases where you're working 2 double crochet front loop only into each stitch. So for my size, I just need to do it 3 times for this initial increase. Then I'm going to work 9 double crochet front loop onlys. Okay, so now we are going to work 2 double crochet front loop only for 4, and then 9 front loop only double crochet. Then again, increase in the next 4 stitches, double crochet, front loop only, 9. So you repeat that for a total number of times depending on what size you're making. And then you'll have another set of increases and then the same amount of front loop double crochets that you started with, you'll also end with. So when we get towards the end, we will slip stitch into the first stitch to join, chain 1, and turn our work. And for row around 2 of our main body, we are going to be doing a modified half double crochet, well, front post half double crochet. It's modified because we're not actually going around the post of the double crochet stitch of the row before. We're going kind of in between the stitches. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can kind of see where exactly I'm putting my hook. Okay, so you can see it's right in between. Like if you were to work into the top of the stitch, you'd work through the top, around the back, and out the next top of the stitch. But it's pretty easy to get the hang of, and this is going to push the tops of those double crochet stitches to the front of our work and give us a nice little ridge here that you can see. It's a really nice detail that mimics the look of the knit version that I made prior to this. So just go ahead and modify half double crochet, front post half double crochet all the way around. All right, so we've gotten to the end and we are going to slip stitch to our first stitch to join our round 2. Okay, and now what we want to do is change to the next color, color B. For me, that's the color taupe. And I'm going to leave a little tail of taupe here for weaving in, and we're not going to be fastening off any of these colors. We're going to carry them along the inside and change color as we go. So I chain 2 and then I pull that black yarn or color A yarn tight to kind of pull those initial chains down into our row. So for our round 3 repeat, we are going to work 2 double crochet into the first 3 stitches. So there's one increase. Here's our next increase, making sure we get through all those strands. And then one more set of 2 double crochet in the next stitch. So this is where we're really getting into that wavy stitch, and this is where you'll start to see that start to form. We're going to be working increases and decreases. Okay, so I've worked 2 single crochet in the first 3 stitches. I'm going to skip a stitch and then double crochet in the next, and I'm going to do that 5 times. So that was 1, this is 2, skip 1, double crochet, that's the third one, skip 1, number 4, and skip 1, number 5. Okay, and then we're going to skip another stitch and then work 2 double crochet into the next 6 stitches. And this is going to be kind of our hill, and our decreases are our valleys. Okay, so we're almost done with our increases here. And now we're going to repeat again this little valley. So we're going to skip one, double crochet one, and repeat that 5 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we skip one and work our increases again. Okay, so we're just going to repeat that all the way across our round until 3 stitches remain. Okay, so we're skipping that next stitch and then we have 3 stitches left, and in those last 3 stitches we will work 2 double crochet each. So just as we started, that's how we will end. There's our second set of 2 double crochet and then our last set of 2 double crochet. Okay, and then we want to make sure that our yarn ends are to the back of our work, because this is the wrong side, or the right side, sorry. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn. And for round 4, we're going to be working the modified front post half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. So just as we did for round 2. So work your modified front post half double crochet in each stitch all the way around, and then we will slip stitch to join. Okay, so now it's time to change color again. We're going to change to color C, which for me is the tan. So I'll leave a little bit of a tail, and I want to keep my tail on the wrong side of my work. And again, we'll chain 2 with the new color and then pull color B tight and turn our work. And just as we did before, we're just going to be repeating rows 3 and 4 again using the new color, and then we'll do another set of repeats with the taupe color B again, and then we'll switch back to color A and do 2 sets of repeats with color A. So you can see here that this is how you will repeat your rounds, and you'll end with color A, but instead of doing 4 rows, you'll just do 3. You want to end on that double crochet row, but you should have 4 of the secondary color stripes when you're finished. Okay, so the last part that we need to do is the neckline and the armholes. So starting with the back panel, we are going to attach color A yarn to the very top of our piece and work a chain 1 and then slip stitch into each of those beginning chains all the way across the back neckline. So this will kind of help reinforce that neckline and keep it from stretching out too much for you. If you find that when you're done it's a little bit too tight, you can instead of slip stitching, you can also just single crochet across if you'd like. But I feel like it gives it a nice structure for your neckline. So just continue to slip stitch all the way across your back panel. Okay, so once you get to the end of the back panel, you will want to work a series of chain stitches anywhere from 14 to 8, depending on the size you're doing. I'm doing the extra large 2X, so that calls for 12, but I found that I wanted mine to be slightly tighter, so this is where you can make an adjustment if you'd like. I only did 8 for my sample because I'm smaller in the bust area than I am everywhere else, so I wanted to make sure that I brought that a little bit higher up on my shoulder than what the pattern actually should be. So you can definitely adjust your chain stitches here if you feel like it's a little too snug or too loose. But after you work your chain stitches, you will immediately start working into the front panel. Make sure that the right side is facing you. Oh, and I should have mentioned you're going to slip stitch into the right side of the back panel as well. Well, we're doing this all with the right side facing, but you just simply slip stitch into each of those beginning chains all the way along the front panel as well. Once you've worked all the way across the front, you'll do the same thing that you did before. You will work the same number of chains. So if you made any adjustments here, make sure that you're working equal numbers for both shoulders. And then once you have your chain stitches done, you will slip stitch into that first slip stitch that we made on the back panel. And this stitch can be a little bit tricky to get into just because it is a slip stitch. So you kind of have to wiggle your hook in there, get it in, and then carefully get that yarn through the stitch. Oh my goodness. Let's give that another try. But you'll slip stitch to the beginning slip stitch that you created on your back panel. You can simply fasten off here and you can leave these tails attached until you are done with your armhole sleeves and done with the whole entire thing. So now what we want to do is we want to move on to the armholes, which you'll see here. Okay, so you can see our nice armhole that we created using also those chain stitches for the shoulder. And now we're going to be using an applied ribbing to work all the way around both armholes. So we will want to attach our yarn into the center of the underarm. So on one side, the side you'll have the seam where you are joining your rounds, and the other side will just be straight. So you'll have to kind of work out how many stitches across where you need to start. It doesn't need to be exactly in the center, just roughly close to the center is fine. But you're going to join color A and chain 1, and then you're going to single crochet into each one of those beginning chains in the underarm and into each row edge up the front side of your tank top, across those chains that we made for the shoulder, back down into each edge row on the back, and then into each beginning chain in the underarm until you get back to where you started. So I've put estimates of how many stitches you should have for your armholes. The key here is just to make sure that you have the same number on both sides. So I would make sure that you're counting your stitches as you go and work the same number in both armholes so that one doesn't end up larger than the other. But once you've worked all the way around your armhole in single crochet, I'll meet you back here and show you exactly how to work the applied ribbing. Okay, so we're done with our initial setup round, which is the single crochet. We slip stitch to join, and now we're going to chain 5. Okay, and then we're going to kind of turn and we're going to be working across the chains that we just made. And so into the second chain from the hook, we're going to single crochet, and then single crochet in each of the rest of the chains until we hit that initial setup round. So you should have 4 single crochets. Then what you want to do is slip stitch into the first 2 stitches of your setup round. Okay? and then we'll turn our work. And this will be a little bit finicky once you're, especially at the very beginning. But once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. Then for the next row, row 3, we're going to skip over the slip stitches and work single crochet back loop only in each stitch across. So it's a very small little, about like a 1-inch ribbing that we're making. Then for the next row, oh sorry, I think I misspoke. That was row 2. This is row 3. You're going to chain 1 and single crochet back loop only in all 4 single crochets, and then slip stitch into the next 2 stitches of the setup round. And then we just repeat those 2 rows back and forth until we've used up all of our initial setup round stitches. So you're just working those single crochet back loop onlys and the slip stitches into our setup round. So we're creating this ribbing, but we're attaching it to our piece at the exact same time. So we're just working back and forth. It actually goes pretty quick since there's only 4 stitches that we need to worry about for our ribbing, but you'll just repeat that all the way around the entire armhole. Okay, so we've made it towards the end of our armhole, and one thing to remember when you're working this applied ribbing, you're either going to end with 1 or 2 stitches left on your initial setup row. So if you have 2 like this, you'll simply slip stitch into those 2 stitches, turn, and work another row. If you only have 1 stitch left, slip stitch into that stitch, and then you're done. So it'll just kind of depend on where you end up, but either one, it'll still work out. So one, you're going to end kind of on that initial row edge, and the other one you're going to end up on the outside edge. So now we've worked all of our rows. We want to put our right sides of our ribbing together, and then you can use whatever preferred method of seaming you have. If you want to fasten off and use a tapestry needle to sew that together, totally fine, whatever method you prefer. I'm simply just going to slip stitch my ends together. That's the easiest for me. So I'm going to chain 1, and then bring those right sides together and slip stitch through both edges here. So I'm going into the stitches of my ending ribbing and those beginning chain stitches of my ribbing. Why is it slip stitches are always so tricky? Here we go. So once you have closed up and joined the 2 edges of your ribbing, you'll be done with your armhole. You'll just repeat that on the other side. Weave in all of your ends. If you need to give it a good steam blocking, that'll be fine. I did not wet block mine. I felt like it didn't really need it. Using the Kobu, it doesn't really tend to need too much blocking at the end. And then, yeah, so you can see if there is a little gap here at the end, just go ahead and use your ends to kind of sew that back together. But this is what your armhole will look like when you are done. So it's just kind of tightening everything up, giving it a nice finished look. And then just, again, repeat that on the other side. Weave in all your ends, and you'll be done with your Taya Tank. Don't forget to check out the description below for the links to everything that you've seen in this tutorial. And don't forget to like and subscribe.